So I'm Ranjan Surian. Good morning, and it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Vic Belanovich. He's the 62nd president for the Society for Surgery of the Alimentary Tract. And it is my enormous pleasure to be able to introduce my friend, and we've known each other for a very long time, and so it's not often that you get to present the president and your very good friend. So the title of my talk is From Humble Beginnings Come Great Things. And I think this is a perfect way to introduce Vic. And this is also a perfect way, as you will see, to describe his entire journey, his family, and where he is today. So hopefully you'll get to share some of that with me. I want to begin by thanking both Vic and Linda for opening up and sharing their lives with me. And I will get to do that with you today. But really, they have been extraordinarily generous in just opening up their hearts, their lives, their souls. And so hopefully you get to enjoy some of that with me today. So seen here are his family. And obviously, many members of his family are here. There's Burke, Tim, Linda, their kids, Irene, and Audrey, as well as their son Tim. Pictured not here, but is present here, are other members of his family that I'll get to introduce you in a second. He is enormously, obviously, proud of each and every one of you and all that you have achieved in life. So pictured here, in addition, are Kristen and Linda's father, as well as Bogaloo, who's Vic's father. Linda's father passed away a year ago, so he can't be here today, and as did Vic's mom a few years ago. So Vic, on behalf of all of us and your family, we welcome you. The SSAT welcomes you. And for those of us those of people who supported you but cannot be here, I'm sure they're smiling on you for a job that they did well, and they're obviously very, very proud of you. Pictured here are, the baby photos. This is Vic sitting on his father's lap, Bob, and his brother Tom, who's sitting on his mother's lap, Rosa. Tom's a transplant recipient of 10 years from NASH and is not here today, but we wish him well, and obviously he's also very proud of you. Vic is very close to his father, Bob. They speak with each other almost every day, and Bob's story is pretty unique, as is the rest of his family. And Vic grew up in a Yugoslavian enclave, pretty much, and as did his parents and grandparents, and they had a bakery business. They had the trials and tribulations of an immigrant family, and so when Bob came to the United States several years ago, he was a mechanical engineer in Yugoslavia, but his degree was not necessarily understood here, and he spoke no English, and so he worked in the bakery as well, just as Vic's mom, Rosa, did. Vic fondly remembers his mom as having a picture-perfect writing skill for the cakes, and Vic and his brother Tom really went around and they helped in the bakery. They baked donuts, they baked pastries, and then they went around doing the deliveries as well. So, from all of that, Vic developed a very strong sense of hard work, good ethic, and certainly he had his parents' examples to follow in terms of family, etc. Bob, on the other hand, despite working in the bakery, also learned language. He went to school, got a master's degree in engineering, worked in Ford and Chrysler, and then eventually retired as the vice president of Johnson Control for Personnel. And so, Vic had huge examples in resiliency, in perseverance. He describes his mom as somebody who was a people's person. Everyone loved her, and so from all of these folks, he learned the value of family. He learned what it takes to really work hard. Bob really wanted to be a doctor and not a mechanical engineer, but in the communist world, you did what you were told. And so Bob ended up being an engineer because That's what they said he had to be. And so I think Vic got his desire really to be a doctor from his dad, and I'm so happy that you were able to fulfill your father's dreams. So. Vic joined the Army. He went to University of Chicago first, and when he went to University of Chicago out of Detroit, out of the Yugoslavian enclave, this just opened his eyes to the rest of the world. He became, much more open to different races, different nationalities, and that was really an eye-opening experience for him. And then he went back to Detroit to really pursue his medical training at Wayne State and joined the Army on an Army scholarship. And here pictured is Linda, who was in the Army as well. We graduated from Wayne State and completed his Army requirements both at Madigan and Letterman, where he trained, and then joined Henry Ford Hospital. And this is the Department of Surgery at Henry Ford Hospital, pictured before he went to the University of Southern Florida, Tampa, as a surgeon there, and he was recruited to be the division chief. When you look at Vic's academic credentials, they are amazing. He's the current Vivian Clark Reeves, Joy McCann, Culverhouse Endowed Chair for Digestive Disorders and Pancreatic Cancer. He's the Vice Chair for Education, where he spends time in the operating room, coaching and teaching residents. He is beloved by them all, and he's also been the Vice Chair for Academic Affairs and certainly the Director for the Division of General Surgery. He has over 300 publications, too many to list here, and as many national and international presentations. He's received many, many awards. He's got the Jeff Ponsky Master Educator Award in Endoscopy from SAGES, the Leighton Rickers Master Clinician Award from the SSAT, the Sir Henry Wellcome Medal and Prize from the Association for Military Surgeons, the Joseph H. Bogg Resident Award, and the Joseph L. Ponca Surgical Teacher Award from Henry Ford. And there are many more, but these are a few of the selected ones that I could fit on this slide, Vic. He is a member in all prestigious American societies. Certainly the SSAT is dearest to his heart, so it is listed right on top among some of the other very well-known but not as dear societies here. So when I asked Vic, I said, Vic, you've got all of these achievements. Which are the ones that are dearest to your heart? I mean, what are the things that you're most proud of? And so here are the things. I don't know how many of you are foregut surgeons, but those of you who are, I'm sure have used the GERD HRQL for reflux. This has been cited, almost 500 times. He is also very proud of the Frailty Index and a book that you'll hear more about in the making that has that I'll talk about here in a few minutes. But it's not all about work. So I'm sure there's a story behind it. I didn't quite get the story behind it from Vic. I didn't ask Linda, but this is, but maybe Vic can share. This, I think, is from his Henry Ford days, and this is their Sonny and Cher impersonation. Vic also has a fun streak. This is the Randy Rainbow concert that he and Linda went to. I don't know how many of you know about Randy Rainbow. I did not, but Randy Rainbow is a comedian. He is he mimics, I guess, women, and he wears pink glasses. So this is Vic and Linda at the Randy Rainbow concert just having some fun. Now that Vic has a little bit more time, he has gone back to some of his passions, cooking. I understand, is extraordinarily good with the grill, and here are not both of his dogs, but he is also a good daddy to his dogs, not just a good daddy to his kids. So that's Vic doing more grilling. So Linda has always been very fond of big vehicles, and over the last couple of years, she's actually been driving a school bus for the county, and this is her way of giving back to the community, but also indulging in one of her passions. But when COVID hit, they were able to actually take this pretty much full time. So Vic got a Rainier camper, this is loaded on the back of his 350 truck. They tell me that when the kids were little, they would actually take them in a camper, and they thought the kids really loved it, and of course, the kids did not. I don't think they enjoyed the camper at all. But now that the kids are out of the home, and when COVID hit and they had some time on their hands, Vic and Linda have really taken to camping in a very serious way, and you'll hear and see more about that. One of the things that they do when they are out camping is to play Scrabble. And Linda tells me that this is one of the things that she can beat Vic at. Of course, pictured here are Sanders chocolates as well as some red wine. A couple of their favorite things. And of course, if the red wine did not do the trick, Vic, I figured out why Linda wins at these games. It's the big storm. So if after the red wine and the big storm, Vic is putty and Linda's scrabbling hands. There's an interesting story about this cup. And, Vic and Linda, they play trivia every Thursday night, and Vic is quite the trivia buff. He answers all kinds of questions. He's really great at it. And one of the things that they do is, this is a competitive group, and so they get ranked 1, 2, or 3. And many times if there is a tie, then there's a tiebreaker, I understand. And let me tell you, your president can really shake a leg. So that's the twist dance competition.
The twist. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Let's see what you got. Come on, John. Come on, Vic. All right, I'm going to let the crowd vote.
So we just have to figure out where Vic was last night.
The twist.
Some of the things that Vic and Linda did on their camping trips was to crisscross all across the U.S. and Canada. And this is Vic in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at a balloon festival. And Vic really, this was one of the things on his bucket list. And so he went up in the balloon for 2 to 3 hours and really enjoyed himself. One of the things, I don't know if you noticed, is Vic obviously sporting this beard, and he had a ponytail to go along with it. And he actually grew his hair during COVID. And he and Linda actually go to the same hairdresser, and he found out that if he grew his hair 13 inches, he would be able to donate it for kids, for wigs for kids, and that is exactly what he did. So he grew his hair, he got it to 13 inches, and then was able to donate it to the kids who are in need of hair after their cancer chemotherapy. So always a generous heart, always thinking ahead. But it was not all fun and games at these trips. Vic had taken a sabbatical. This was a 6-month sabbatical, so he could actually do some writing, and he put his spare time to writing the book that he was trying to get accomplished for 30 years. So this is the book, this is the product of that sabbatical. It was not all just 6 months of camping, and it's a book on medical persuasion, and he was able to complete it. So this is the third thing that he is extraordinarily proud about. But Linda is no slouch either. So while Vic was working, she actually blogged, and she's an amazing photographer and writes very well. I had the pleasure of sharing, the blog, and so I'm just putting up these couple of slides in case you want to take pictures and follow the V's on their journey. And this is V's on tour. V stands for, of course, Vic Volanovich and the family and their two Vizsla senior dogs. So this is the 23 tour. So I asked Vic, what does he enjoy about the SSAT the most? And I don't know, Vic, if this is going to be part of your talk, but I'm going to say it. He says, he just enjoyed coming here and meeting someone new. He encourages people who come to this meeting, the trainees in particular, to ask questions if they are speaking in, if there's a talk that interests them or there's a topic that interests them. And he really loves the community and the networking of this group. So this is really Vic's professional family of sorts. So I asked Linda, what is it that she truly enjoys about Vic? And, she recounted an adventure that they had. They were actually driving this camper, and in Denali, and they have these roads that kind of dip quite suddenly. And their camper actually got crushed by the truck, and it broke their windows. And this was cold, and so they had, glass everywhere. The dogs were in the camper. Linda was frustrated. She was, just very kind of worked up about this whole thing. They had to cardboard their windows, etc. And Vic just said, "It's all part of the adventure." And that calmed Linda down, and that truly describes Vic in many ways. He just is a calm person. He enjoys what he does, and he just takes everything in stride. So this is Vic on horseback. It's in his red jacket. He's not really riding into the sunset, as this picture might suggest. This is Vic really saying to the world, "Here is it that I come." So to Vic and Linda, many best wishes on behalf of the SSAT. And, we really wish Vic well, and we look forward to your talk. And there were several people that you see on the screen here that sent me videos. I'm sorry I'm not able to do that in the interest of time, but they called him their mentor, friend, teacher, guide, and they truly, Vic, I'll send you their videos. They were truly very appreciative of all that you have done for all of them. So Vic, many cheers to you, to my friend, Vic Volanovich, our 62nd president.
Well, thank you, Rajan, for that introduction. Very kind. Oop, there we go. Certainly better than what I deserve. All right, so we'll go to get started. Certainly, this is also more than I ever expected when I was a young Army surgeon many years ago, and I was becoming president of this society is the greatest honor of my professional career. This is my family. Rajan introduced them already, but I'll go ahead and kind of more formally. This is Audrey, Irina, Tom, and Burke. This is my father, Bogalub, who is here. And unfortunately, my mother died 3 years ago, Rosa. This is our daughter-in-law, Kristen, their dog, Bleecker. And this is Linda, whom you were just introduced to. This year, we will have been married 30 years. As many of you know, that I have an interest in quality of life research. When one of the tenets is the quality multiplier, where 0 is death, 1 is perfect health. And that is then adjusted your lifetime to the quality adjusted life years. In which case, the quality adjusted life years of my life in being married to Linda has to be at least 60, because she is certainly more than double the quality of my life. She and our children continue to do so. So we all in the audience need to recognize and acknowledge that our families sacrificed much so that we may be able to enjoy this great profession that we had. The honors is as much theirs as mine. Of course, we can't have the SSAT without the efforts of the PRI staff. So a big thank you to Jessica Sierra-Martaro, Beverly Hendry, Missy Hefner, Lucy Pellerin, and Sarah Borman for their seemingly endless labors on our behalf. I personally also would like to acknowledge John Blackstone, who is the Executive Director of the SSAT, for the majority of my time in the organization. I learned a tremendous amount about the SSAT and the inner workings of DDW from John. A big thank you to all the members of the SSAT leadership and the committees that truly made my year as president easy. But in reality, we're not so much the leaders as the followers, taking our cues for the direction of the organization from you, the membership. As some of you know, I'm not a big fan of leadership courses. To me, they're just scams preying on the insecurities of the terminally ambitious, but that's another conversation. Also, a thank you to my friend, local arrangements chair, Fred Brody. A wonderful job, Fred. Thank you so much. And finally, a special thank you to Fabrizio Michelazzi and Nick Vote. Fabrizio recommended me to Nick for vice chair of the program committee, and Nick may perhaps someone misguidedly agreed. Without these two, I certainly would not be standing here today. So thank you so much, Nick and Fabrizio. All right, let's get started. It's my disclosure, which has nothing to do with this talk. Nobody else thinks I'm important enough to give me any money. We spend our entire career, certainly our early career, trying to convince the world that we matter. We work long, hard hours, collect fancier and fancier titles, as if they were baseball trading cards. I'm particularly fascinated with the title of Senior Executive Vice President. It implies that there are junior executive vice presidents running around, but I actually yet to identify any as denizens of the C-suite. But moving on. We make our signature blocks bigger and bigger as if we believe that the one with the biggest signature block in the end is the ultimate winner. Certainly, this has described me. And by the way, for those of you interested, this is a Honus Wagner rookie card. He was one of the greatest shortstops who's ever played. This card is considered the most rare and valuable of the baseball trading cards, but not my personal favorite. Okay, without looking at your program book, who was the SSAT president in 1972? It was Stanley Hoare, chair of surgery at the Cleveland Clinic, who had an illustrious career. I'm sure there's a portrait of him hanging in the Cleveland Clinic somewhere. And I'm also sure that he trained and influenced generations of surgeons. Yet few of us remember him today, which is probably most of our fates. However, I am confident that there are many in this room who have been influenced maybe 3 or 4 times removed by someone whom Dr. Hoare influenced. Like Dr. Hoare, everyone in this room has achieved much in their careers. But these achievements are ephemeral. Eventually, all our patients will die. People will stop reading our papers. No one will invite us to speak. We will exit the stage. It is only the anonymous influence that we leave behind that will last. Yet, most of our activities are in achieving goals. We are being told constantly to set goals. There's a whole cottage industry of consultants out there ready to help you achieve your goals. This is probably the first time in SSAT history that Mike Tyson is being quoted in a presidential address. But he makes an important observation. You almost have to give up your happiness to accomplish your goals. Now let that sink in. This is the arrival fallacy. The belief that achieving your goals will make you happy so that our utilitarian selves become singularly focused on realizing our goals. But these goals, like a chocolate bonbon, will only provide momentary satisfaction. Shortly, that achievement will dissipate into the mist of your memory, leaving you still the person you were before. It is no wonder that Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, concluded that the root of all unhappiness is unfulfilled desires, and that to achieve happiness, one must have no desires. I can tell you for myself, when I let go of the desire to become department chair, the subsequent contentment was surprising. As an aside, because I'm sure as Linda could tell you, I'm distractible. I think the Buddha would be quite flummoxed to see these great edifices dedicated to him. Like I wonder what St. Patrick would think that his namesake day has devolved into a day of drunken debauchery. But let's move on. We want to believe that our achievements will be great and lasting. Some, for the exceptional few, are. To me, this is one of the most profound poems which illustrates the folly of our hubris. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a satyr's visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled link and sneer of cold command tell that a sculptor well those passions read, which yet survived, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair." Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the long and level sands stretch far away. The lesson is that material accomplishments, no matter how great you think they are, will most likely not last. The Fortune 500 was started in 1955. Of the original 500 biggest companies listed, only 52 are still on this list just these 70 years on, and dozens more no longer exist. Yet, they provided valuable goods at the time they were functioning. But despair not. The present does affect the future. Past is prologue. For even though it is likely we will be forgotten, like Dr. Hoare, the effect that we will leave in others will multiply with the subsequent generations. The people whom you made feel like they matter is your legacy. I'm sure that there's still a little bit or more of Dr. Hoare's influence in every Cleveland Clinic surgeon. So think about your influence, great or small, good or bad, in the present. One way to actively make someone feel like they matter is the SSAT mentoring program. This program matches mentors to mentees to help develop the mentee's career and hopefully as a person, and vice versa, I might add. I urge everyone to get involved either as a mentor or mentee or both. Rajan Yatra introduced to my father, but I'm going to talk about him some more. This is my father, Bogaloo, known as Bob, to his American colleagues and friends. I am happy that he's here in the audience, looking good at 87. He was born in what is now known as North Macedonia, but Yugoslavia at the time. It was not, nor is, a rich and powerful country. Perhaps one former president would possibly refer to it as a feces cavity country. Despite living in America for 64 years, my dad still has a very noticeable Slavic accent. When people ask him where he's from, he responds by answering, Alabama. He is a true immigrant success story, earned degrees in mechanical engineering, all the while working nights in our family's bakery. He had a very successful 40-plus year career in the auto industry, eventually retiring from Johnson Controls as vice president of automotive operations. He even interviewed with Elon Musk for a position at Tesla, but did not take his offer. But please, feel free to ask him his impressions of Mr. Musk. But there were roadblocks. He was told at Chrysler that he would never rise higher than middle management because of his accent, which did not fit the mold of what a Chrysler executive should be. It was someone at Johnson Controls who appreciated enunciation diversity that gave him a chance. Johnson Controls did very well. Chrysler no longer exists as an independent company. This speaks to the point that making people feel like they belong makes us all better. Because being different is hard. This was the name on my birth certificate in 1961. The name was misspelled by the clerk, probably because they had no idea what to make of it. The C's actually should have been V's. This was practically an impossible name to say for nearly all of our Anglophonic neighbors in Detroit. Eventually, my parents legally changed their name to Volanovich, more in line with the region of North Macedonia, but also a little bit easier name to say. But as my father adopted the name Bob when interacting with others, I was given the name Vic in school for the same purpose. I'm sure many of you know it is very common for immigrants to anglicize their names to better fit in. I got tired of the discrepancy between what I consider my name Vic and what was on my legal documents, so I legally changed my name, thinking that it would resolve the matter. However, much to my chagrin, many assume now my legal name is Victor, so guess what? I'm still explaining my name. But what's in a name? Many famous and not so famous people have had their names changed. Napoleon was born on the island of Corsica, which was and still is a French territory, but with a large Italian population, to a minor Italian aristocratic family. To advance in the French army, he changed his name from the Italian Napoleone de Bonaparte to the more French-sounding Napoleon Bonaparte. Nelson Mandela was born Rolihlahla Mandela. While in grade school, his teacher thought it would be good for the children to have English names, so he was given the name Nelson for the customary no good reason. Eric Weiss was born in Budapest, but his family immigrated to Appleton, Wisconsin. Much like my family, he wished not to be viewed differently, so he changed his name to Eric Weiss, which was more akin to the German immigrants of the area. He later took on the stage name Harry Houdini, which is what we know him by. Many, many other immigrants and outside people have done the same. Why do they feel this need? Evolution has wired our brain to want to belong. And feeling like you belong is feeling like you matter. Feeling like you matter is both generated from within yourself and validated by those around you. We can't help this. It's part of who we are as humans. So how do we choose to validate others? We must first recognize there are parts of our brain that are hardwired and cannot be turned off. We must accept that the human brain evolved not to discern truth, but to survive. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors stuck together and were wary of outside groups. We are all biased. It takes your brain 39 milliseconds to decide whether someone is a threat and 100 to decide whether someone is trustworthy, well before you're even consciously aware of these judgments. This takes many forms. Look at the way we surgeons speak in sometimes derogatory terms about internists. This is generated from what Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman calls our System 1. I became aware of his work and that of his colleague Amos Tversky in the late 1980s with their book Judgment Under Uncertainty, Heuristics and Biases. To me, this was an epiphany, because nothing better describes our many decisions as surgeons as the phrase judgment under uncertainty. If you haven't read his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, you should. You'll never think about thinking the same way ever again. Our System 1 is our brain's automatic system of quick judgments that we may be unconscious of and cannot turn off. However, all is not lost. Our System 2 is our conscious mind assessing the judgments of System 1. We can overcome judgment errors about others, but it requires understanding and self-discipline. But it's worth it, because when you apply the wrong measures, you not only shortchange the person, but also yourself, as my father's experience with Chrysler illustrates. I love this quote, which has been attributed to Einstein, but really may not be his. If you judge a fish by how well it climbs a tree, it will always be a failure. Although the quote focuses on the injustice to the fish, the corollary is that you have deprived yourself of a really great swimmer. Just like how Chrysler deprived themselves of a really great engineering executive, what are we depriving ourselves? We are depriving ourselves of the human connection of others because we do have a lot in common, and what we don't have in common gives us the opportunity to learn. Although Donald Brown wrote this book as more of a criticism of many anthropologists' focus on the differences between culture, what fascinated me was how much we are the same. This is what we should leverage. Because as Jesse Owens said, the only bond worth anything between human beings is their humanness. For those of you that don't know, Jesse Owens won 4 gold medals in the 1936 Olympics in Berlin, proving to Hitler that his Aryan race was not superior, causing much consternation. The SSAT has always made me feel like I belonged and was in no small way a catalyst to whatever success I had, much more so than any other organization. All of us in the SSAT leadership want the same for you. This is a picture of me giving a talk at an SSAT joint symposium many years ago taken by one of my residents. It is complete serendipity that the slide asks, how do we measure success? Because, let's face it, friends, we are all success junkies. And we really need those hits, whether it's another big operation, publication, promotion, or grant. However, success is always a combination of talent, opportunity, ambition, and perseverance. I imagine that this room is filled with people who have each of these qualities in abundance. Yet how many of us still hear that little voice that says you haven't done enough? Are you pathologically comparing yourself to others? Are your perceptions robbing you of your joy? Or are your perceptions disproportionately egotistical? I am sure that we all know people who perceive themselves on a pedestal bigger than the Statue of Liberty, who perceive themselves as self-made men, and let's face it, it's usually men, that are always right and do everything perfectly. But we need to remember how much luck we have had in our lives because you did not deserve the talents with which you were born, the place in which you were born, the parents that loved you, nor most of the advantages you've enjoyed. I was born using a forceps delivery. I still have a small scar on my forehead from that event. All went well, and here I am. However, if circumstances were different, and I ended up with a birth-related traumatic brain injury, I wouldn't be here now. Our luck is not only the good fortune that smiles upon us, but also the misfortune that does not frown upon us. On the other, and we all know this. We are in the tragedy business. We've seen many good, talented people suffer because of nothing more than bad luck. On the other hand, part of our good luck is that we have encountered people who are willing to help us. So no matter how rich, powerful, or famous, everyone has had help along the way. Those who claim that their accomplishments are theirs alone are lying to themselves and the world and are insulting those who have helped them. Humility is a strength. Generosity, especially with your time, is a virtue. But this is not new. This is recognized centuries ago by the likes of the Roman statesman Cicero and Mengzi, author of the Mencius, who emphasized benevolence, righteousness, wisdom, and propriety. And it's good to remember that we're not perfect. Confucius reminds us that we keep our faults in our back pocket so that although they're obvious to everyone else, we ourselves cannot see them. So it's good to check what's in your back pockets every once in a while. For your true character comes out in how you treat people who have no power or influence over you and by the enemies you make when you stick up for them. This has been observed by Samuel Johnson, Joseph Conrad, and many, many others in various forms, in various places, at various times. So let's do a thought experiment. An IQ of 160 is considered exceptionally gifted. I am sure that there are many in this audience that fit this description, although I am not among your number. 160 is 4 standard deviations above the mean, or about 0.003% of the population. The world's population is over 8 billion. That means that there are a whopping 240,000 exceptionally gifted people in the world. How many of them are not getting an opportunity to make the world better. We can't know all the gifted people in the SSAT, although I want to know as many of you, gifted or not, as possible. Therefore, we made some changes to the nominating process, thanks to soon-to-be President Taylor Real, to make it easier to let us know who you are. So please, the junior people, take advantage of that. But realize we have a finite number of positions within the society. I really wish I could give everyone who wants a leadership position such a position. So my plea is to make your membership meaningful regardless of your title within the SSAT. I hope this is not ringing hollow, and I understand how you may feel this way. I was on the board of another society when my term was coming to the end, and I was not reappointed. I felt like all my efforts in that organization were for nothing, but that was not true. All my relationships were intact, which were much more valuable than any titles or positions. Regardless of your title, you must be yourself. Or as a nameless African sage philosopher noted, no distance can separate you from yourself. This is Mashona Duweo, a scholar who collects and studies much indigenous philosophy of Africa, which has not been written down and therefore ignored. What else are we ignoring? This is a great piece by Arthur Brooks, who is a happiness professor at Harvard. And by the way, his articles in The Atlantic are well worth reading. The basic point is that your prowess starts going downhill sooner than you suspect, and the fear of professional oblivion leaves many, mostly men, with a sense of loss and angst. Of course, this is not a new observation. Few things are. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca recognized this centuries ago. The central question for those of you of a certain age is, how are you going to manage this decline while maintaining your sense of self? So say this with me: surgery is what I do, it's not who I am. Washington's farewell address is prescient in many ways. He certainly foresaw and warned us against much of what is going on in our country now. But it's most remarkable because he was willing to step away from power when he didn't have to. This allowed others to have their moment. So my question for those of you of a certain position is, are you holding on when you should be letting go? Think about who you might be holding back. Say it with me: my title is not who I am. You might be attached to your title, but your institution is not attached to you. I figured that would get the biggest laugh. This is a great article by Joseph Simoni, who led cancer centers, about academic institutions. They will not love you back. And it is easy to debase yourself on their behalf in the futile attempt to make them believe you matter. Everyone in this room, even without your titles, you are good enough. And because you're good enough, make the most of the SSAT, engage with your fellow members, speak up, meet someone you never met before, as Rajan mentioned earlier. I know this can be hard. Those of you that know me know I am not a sparkling conversationalist, nor am I the most warm and fuzzy, touchy-feely guy. I had to make myself engage. But after a while, coming to meetings is like going to your high school, college, or med school reunion, running into a never-ending series of old friends whom I see throughout this room. Because, dude, it's YOLO. You want to make good decisions now so that your future self will be happy with you. This has been the central question for every culture. The Japanese philosophy of life, Nagomi, incorporates Ikigai, which is yours and no one else's reason for being. So what is your balance? The Indian Hindu gurus emphasize understanding and accepting the stage of life you're in. Many professionals get stuck in grihastha, clinging to career when it should be transitioned to vanaprastha and giving back. How are you handling these transitions? In the West, Aristotle emphasized the need for phronesis, or practical wisdom, a combination of good judgment and excellent character. Now tell me, who wouldn't want a physician like this? This leads to eudaimonia, a state of good spirit and flourishing, or one can say contentment. You can have contentment no matter what your professional position is, depending on how you use it. Although your position in your institution's org chart may confer responsibility and authority, your real influence is in your informal relationships. Thomas Sowell was a professor of economics at Stanford, member of the Hoover Institute. I understand some of his views may be controversial, but his 1979 book, Knowledge and Decisions, espouses the importance of informal relationships. And when you have a good informal relationship, you can tell a person what they need to hear rather than what they want to hear. This is making people matter. I see no better use than to see in our trainees and colleagues the emotional labor in which they toil. We've all been here, having to remain outwardly cool while a family member is accusing us of trying to kill their loved one, or the moral injuries suffered when we know what the right thing to do for a patient is, but the hospital or insurance company keeps us from doing so. Be alert and perceive these in others. You may not be able to correct it, but by acknowledging it, you're also showing that they matter. Because we are all in this together, best said in Ubuntu philosophy, I am because we are. This is a North American indigenous medicine wheel. It symbolizes that an individual is healthy when they are understood by their group and they understand their group. The SSAT is because we are. There are many ways you can get involved, formally and informally. Your involvement and understanding is what makes this society you matter. And because you matter to us, we want to know how to make the SSAT experience more meaningful to you. Please let us know. Most people also know I'm not a big fan of mission statements. In fact, for most organizations, the only honest mission statement is we need to make as much money as possible for the company. However, in our retreat in January, we developed a new mission and vision statements I can endorse because I've seen these in action every day while I've been in SSAT leadership. We are a community. This is the place where you matter and belong. I started this talk with a picture of the world with an arrow pointing to a person who wants to matter. However, real meaning in our lives primarily comes from making other people feel like they matter, that they are in your heart and mind. So please, each and every one of you, go out for the rest of this meeting and do or say something that makes someone feel like they matter. And then you will understand my meaning. Once again, thank you for the privilege of being your president and for your kind attention.